Our next session is Good Governance, Strong Foundations, and it's all about leadership, accountability, transparency, and impact. We will be joined by some special guests. So for this segment, I would like to invite the MCF trustee, Saffa Mir. Are you here? Please, can you join us on stage? And while she's coming up, I will tell you about her very impressive resume. Saffa is an associate in the Charities. That was not me. Just good timing. So she's an associate in the Charities team, specializing in acting for charities, not-for-profit, and social enterprise clients. She has expertise in a variety of matters, including setting up, merging, and incorporating charities, and often provides advice on governance matters. Charity Commission applications as well, trustee training, and permanent endowment. Saffa, over to you. Good luck with your session. It's going to be great. And now? Is the green light on? The green light is on. Oh. Bit of troubleshooting. This is what happens during live sessions. You know, always like when you call IT, have you switched it on and off? We're going to go for the classic way. Try now.
I'm not sure if that's...
That's it?
It's not that. I can try and speak as loud as possible, which is...
That's it. Projection. Yeah, bit of theatre.
You know, if my family were here, they'd say, oh, there you go. There we go. Lovely. I was about to make a joke, but it's okay. We don't need to do that now. So Salam, everybody. We'll start from the beginning again, as if nothing went wrong just then. Hamda, I've got the blessing of chairing the Good Governance and Strong Foundation session. So, as it says in the name, the purpose of this session is essentially to talk about and give an opportunity to hear from learned individuals within the sector about how strong governance builds trust and ultimately enhances a charity's ability to create impact. I think it's very common that a lot of us will say when we're working in the charity sector that we're very focused on the output and everything that we do. It's very easy to talk about and to have pictures and videos and, you know, it's the kind of shiny stuff about the work that we do, which is extremely important. But sometimes it can be a bit of a facade, and in behind the scenes, governance is kind of failing. We've got dysfunctional boards, we've got disputes amongst employees. You know, it may be a range of things. So, inshallah, the purpose of today is to talk about how we can tackle those things and what we can do to ensure that it's not a facade and actually everything is great. So we're going to start off by, and I'm going to introduce David Holdsworth, who, if you don't already know, has been the Chief Executive Officer of the Charity Commission since June 2024. Prior to that, he served as Chief Executive Officer of the Animal and Plant Health Agency, which is the UK's biosecurity agency. David has an extensive CV, which includes already being involved within the Commission prior. So he was Deputy CEO and Registrar of Charities at the Commission, and he has a decade's worth of experience at the Home Office in various roles. So I'd like to invite David to the stage first.
Thank you, Saffa. Good morning, assalamu alaikum. It's great to see so many of you here and witness the energy and excitement in the room. As all of you will know, the Muslim faith and charity have long been inextricably intertwined. Charitable giving is, of course, captured in the very pillars of the faith. And each year, British Muslims donate, through their zakat, £200 million during Ramadan alone. That is a massive impact to communities across all of our nations and makes a huge difference to those communities. It's a great testament to the generosity of British Muslims and represents incredible contribution to British charity, both here and also around the world. The bond between faith and charity that is reflected in the foundations of your faith has been baked into the framework of law and charity that defines charity in the UK for centuries. The framework has developed over time and thankfully become more inclusive since Queen Elizabeth I, the original origins of charity law in the UK. But the advancement of religion was the original charitable purpose created over 400 years ago. Parliament and government over generations have recognised faith has the enormous potential for good. That good continues to shape our communities and our society. We may live in an increasingly secular age, but recent census in England and Wales showed that around 2/3 of the population have faith, and 3.9 million people, representing 6.5% of the population, gave their faith as Islam. The link between faith and charitable giving is therefore not just historic, but is still alive and thriving. In fact, it's the opposite. Last year, we received a record number of applications to register charities. Over 9,000 applications were received by the Commission. So it shows that charitable giving, linked with faith, is still very much at the heart of our society. After assessing these applications against the legal framework, we registered just over 5,000 new charities, 178 of which carry the term Islam in their charitable objects or the term Muslim. So it shows you the impact is ongoing. And I think this demonstrates the ongoing contribution British Muslims and those with the faith of Islam make to the charitable landscape across our nations. When I started in this role a year ago, I wanted to ensure as a regulator we didn't just enforce, but we enabled, and we moved to unleash the potential of this sector for good. That means proactively engaging with you to understand risks, to understand blockers, and to understand obstacles to how you can fulfill your charitable purpose and unleash the potential of your communities. And that means sometimes using our authority to convene partners across the sector, across government, and with other organisations to take some of the big issues of the day and of tomorrow and look at how we find solutions together. A recent example of a roundtable I convened was to look at how we get ahead of what we knew would be issues and obstacles with the safe flow of passage and aid into Gaza. We all know of the horrendous suffering taking place in the Middle East at this time. We don't involve ourselves in politics at the Charity Commission, but we do have a duty to enable charities to deliver their charitable purpose, which includes doing everything I can to enable charities we regulate to do their work safely, not least those involved in saving lives and rebuilding lives in war-torn areas, including Gaza and Syria. So I was grateful to those who were present at the roundtable, including the Director of Programme for the Disasters Emergency Committee, the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the Home Office, and the Treasury, as well as the leaders of several charities and umbrella bodies, including Save the Children. The collective efforts of those in the room will subsequently lead to updated guidance shortly to be published from the Charity Commission, which will support the sector, ensure aid flows lawfully, compliantly and safely to those who will need it most in Gaza as they start to rebuild when the time comes. And it is that collaboration, that approach of working together for the good of others, that will drive the Commission under my watch. And we know charities across the board are facing pressures. Their financial resilience at this time is being tested. And sadly, some of the geopolitical issues that are happening in foreign shores are impacting across the UK. We cannot directly alleviate those pressures at the Commission, but what we can do is create an environment where trustees are enabled to navigate the storm. We know during challenging times, when finances are under more pressure, that good governance matters more than ever. And we see frequently in our compliance casework that often at the heart of when something goes wrong, it is governance where it all started. And good governance, we know from our research, is absolutely intrinsic to the public's willingness to give. And the public give £60 billion a year to UK charities to make a difference. Good governance, transparency, underpins that trust and confidence the great British public place in the charitable sector, and it must be cherished, nourished, if it is to grow, and if charitable giving is to grow. And we all have a role to play in good governance. We at the Commission are determined to play our part, ensuring that you have the guidance to enable you to do the job, and that the regulatory requirements are clear. But we're also there to support and enable you. So we are there to be contacted. We are your regulator, we are your resource, and we are there to help and enable as well as to enforce. So please do use us, please do contact us, and please do use the guidance we provide. We've so far updated 5 pieces of guidance this year, because to be frank, some of our guidance was quite impenetrable for quite a long time. And I know, having been a trustee, if it takes 128 pages to tell you how to do something, it's too bloody complicated. So we have undertaken a period of review of our guidance. Some of the different approaches we're taking to enable trustees is the likes of the 5-minute videos. And if you haven't seen them, I'd encourage you, at the start of your trustee board, play the video. It will give you at least the basics of an understanding of your trustee duties and your leadership duties. So you have the promise from me, as the Chief Executive of your regulator, to do what we can to support and enable. As in any walk of life, leadership is key to good governance. It's key to organisational culture. It's key to delivering positive impacts and outcomes. And as we have seen throughout history, leaders can choose to divide, or they can choose to unite. They can choose to be good leaders, or they can choose to be bad leaders. And charity leaders are no different. Good leadership can unite within an organisation. It can unite across boundaries. It can unite across faiths and across communities. Poor leadership can divide trustee boards, it can divide organisations, and it can divide communities. So one of the key things for good governance is good leadership. Now, the good news is the vast majority of charities in our nations are absolutely fantastic. They make a difference every day. And the 1 million trustees across the nation make a huge contribution every day. 8 in 10 trustees are likely to recommend their role to others. So we know as well that trustees enjoy the role that they play in charities and in governance. But at the same time, many charities are carrying vacancies. So as the regulator, I want to encourage more people into trusteeship, of all faiths, of all backgrounds. They're the lifeblood of the organisations that we rely on as a nation, and organisations like all of yours represented here today. So as we talk about good governance, I do want to say, together we can ensure the charity sector we hand over to the next generation is as strong as the sector we inherited. A sector that over the decades has changed society for the better, has made it more inclusive, has made it more accessible, has lifted people up, not just handed out. That is what we are working to build. Know the Commission is here to support you on your journey and not just hold you to account. And please do access us as and when needed. And finally, as His Majesty's Registrar of Charities for England and Wales, thank you for all you do. You may feel often unrecognised. You may often feel unappreciated. But no, you don't go unnoticed. And what you do makes a difference every single day. So thank you.
Thank you, David, for the very insightful talk. So that's not the last you're going to hear of David. I should have probably said at the starting what the actual procedure for today's talk was going to be. But what we're going to have now is a Q&A. It's not just me and David, so don't worry. We have got another person on the panel, and that is Augustus Della-Porta. So I'll invite him to join us on the stage. And whilst he does that, I'll do a brief introduction for those that don't know Augustus. So Augustus is a charity lawyer with over 15 years of experience advising on commercial and charity law matters. He leads on advising Muslim charities and not-for-profits in the UK and overseas. He is particularly passionate about working with Muslim organisations and the Muslim community, having lived in Syria and Palestine for some years, where he studied Arabic and reverted to Islam. So I'm just going to move over to the stage and onto the chairs here and just start with a question. So Augustus, why don't you tell us a little bit about what David said and your thoughts on that before I start the Q&A?
Oh, great, my mic does work, fantastic. No, I think, is that, everyone hear me at the back? Thank you. It was really positive, and David, I think since you've come to the Commission, certainly the feedback that I've got from clients, from the sector is really positive. And that does come out in your speech today, in other speeches that you've made, about as well as your role as a regulator, obviously, the supporting and enabling aspect. I think that's fantastic. I think also, alongside that, I know you do some of this already, is championing the sector and championing parts of the sector that perhaps are less visible to the public, and particularly important in this day and age where we see, for example, the riots last year and what happened there. I mean, it was great that, I wanted to flag the statement that the Commission put out very quickly on that was really positive, when a lot of other organs of government or organisations sort of linked to government were very slow. So that was really positive. And I think the Muslim community needs that, deserves that, as you know and will hear today. There's some fantastic examples of work happening in the community, and not just in the community, for the community, whether it be here or overseas, but work that is across the community, across the work that's affecting the whole of society, not just the Muslim community, and some innovation, really interesting work in that space, which really could benefit from being championed more. I know that's not your role to be an advertisement necessarily, but this is a sector which could benefit from more of that, and the extent to which you at the Commission can help with that would be fantastic. The point you made about Gaza, that's great that's happening. And as you know, it's a very subject close to the hearts of all of us across the country, but particularly the Muslim community, and trying to ensuring that aid can get in there, ensuring that the people can talk about what's going on there is important. And yes, there are people out there who have different views, but ultimately, I think we're all aligned in that we want to enable organisations to be able to do that life-saving work and to put as few obstacles as possible in their way, and to avoid diverting their very valuable resources to having to deal with regulation that's perhaps not actually going to go anywhere. So that's, I think, something which I know that you're looking at and tackling, and if I can give you some examples of that, if others can too, it's great to be able to have that conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gus. So I'm going to start off with a question before I kind of hand it to the floor. So what I wanted to focus on was how you think charities, so this is for both of you, sorry, I should say, can build public trust in an era of heightened security and misinformation. So.
Go first, Gus.
I'll let you start.
Is my mic on?
No.
No.
I can pass it over if that's easy.
So it's a really good question. So I think the first thing is transparency. The more transparent you are as an organisation is really important. Your charitable purpose needs to stay at the heart of what you do as a charity. And often when we see things go wrong, it's because over time, the organisation has moved away from its charitable purpose and people have forgot what the organisation was originally created for. So I think having your charitable purpose at the heart of everything you do is really important. Transparency about what you do builds trust. We know that from our research with the public. But the other thing as well is the charities we see and that I've seen over the years have strong trust from the public and from their communities are at the heart of their communities. And I remember after Grenfell, when the survivors didn't trust the state, they didn't trust parts of government, the first place they turned to was the local mosque. And that's because the mosque was at the heart of the community. The leaders there had worked very hard to prioritise their beneficiaries over the years. And that was why that was the first place they turned to when they were in need, the first people they trusted to help. So I do think those for me are the three key things for charities in maintaining trust.
Actually, so I've got a mic. I agree with all of those three. I think it's also important for organisations, taking the sort of theme of transparency a bit further and accountability, to be transparent with their donors and their communities about what it takes to do your work, especially if you're doing work in very difficult places. That does require an extra layer of administration to be able to do that work safely, to be able to comply with the law, to be able to protect your staff, volunteers, and so on. To deliver the impact, as was mentioned earlier, there are all those other things in the background that need to happen. So being open about that, I think, is important. Sometimes there is a feeling that we don't want to admit to the fact that we have to spend on these types of things. So that's an important point there, I think. Being open about your successes, but also where your failures, within your organisation, on your board, is really important to be able to move forward from that and deal with that. Sorry. And I think being proactive to challenge misinformation that's out there is also important, and to have those out there who can champion and support the sector in that. So, obviously there's the Commission that can help with that. MCF does a huge amount of work in that area. There's other sector bodies out there too, who should all be stepping up to help. And that needs information. It needs you to be able to tell those organisations what's going on, to be able to help with that misinformation and to collectively tackle that.
Thank you both. Thanks both. So I've got some questions, but mindful of the fact that it's not every day that we get an opportunity to potentially ask a question to the Charity Commissioner, a leading lawyer in the sector. So does anybody, does the audience have a question? You have a broken mic first. But now, yes, you have a question at the front. Just say your name and organisation.
My name is Yusuf from Charitable. I would like to ask a question. Also, you have mentioned that last year a lot. Sorry about that. You said last year 9,000 entities applied to be a registered charity, and you have approved 5,000 of them. So there's a discussion among other charities that there are so many small charities with poor governance and whatnot. Instead of setting up new charities, they should come together and create a bigger organization to deliver a bigger impact. So what is your take on this? Obviously, it doesn't have to be an official answer. But do you think there should be so many small charities, or they should come together to create a bigger one? Thank you.
It's a really, really good question, and one I get asked quite often. And the one thing I will say is, as a civil servant who served 20 years in this country, the civil service doesn't always know best. And so I always worry when the state becomes a blocker to things rather than an enabler. If you look at some of the best charities in recent years, some of those that have made a big difference, have connected with the public, you think of charities like Help for Heroes. There were already loads of veterans charities. If we'd have said no, then the 50 million a year that they raised to help veterans coming back at that point from war who'd lost limbs, where there was no facility for them to rehabilitate, none of that would have been delivered, because we would have said there's already a lot of veterans charities. So often some of the new charities coming through can connect with the public, can deliver differently, or come up with more innovative solutions. So I think our role as the regulator is to ask the questions, which we do. So often if people want to set up a charity on the back of a bereavement, We will say, have you thought of other ways? You can create a restricted fund. You can go to a charity and we say, here are the charities. You can create a fund in your relative's name that will live on and will deliver, but actually you won't then have the governance and the overheads to a charity. So we do the nudges, but if they want to carry on, it's not our job to stop them. And sometimes they go on and do amazing things, these new charities. So it's a really good question. There is a question, I think, for all charities around collaboration. And again, I'm not just talking about mergers, I am talking about collaboration. And there are different forms of collaboration for charities. There are joint bids you can put in if you want to provide a service. There are ways you can merge your back office functions, HR, finance. There are ways you can join up your clinical leads if you're in a health charity. So there are different things that charities can do other than merge. And I would say a big opportunity for the sector is around how they can collaborate together more, join up more. And I do think where I've seen that work quite powerfully, they've become quite a powerful voice for the charitable purpose that they are delivering.
Can I quickly?
Yeah,
I completely agree with David there. I think innovation is a particularly important area that new people coming into the sector bring new ideas and scale those up into some very interesting project charities. The other thing I would say is that there are particular areas, parts of the world where communities set up charities that they are able to deliver aid into in ways that mainstream charities sometimes can't. So I saw this particularly with Syria a few years ago. I was closely connected to that because I used to live in Syria for many years. And so I was working very closely with the British Syrian community who set up various charities that were doing amazing things, delivering aid into really difficult contexts. Now, obviously, from the Commission's perspective, it's like, hold on, hang on, are you actually able to do this work? So they did obviously have to do a lot of work to get themselves into a place where they were able to deliver that aid safely. But some of them, the ones that I was working with, were very conscious of that and making sure that they had all the right systems, etc., in place. And actually were able to operate very safely because they knew the local context very well and were able to be very nimble in that sense to make sure they were in the right places at the right time and not in those places at the wrong time. And some of those charities, I know a couple of them are here today, are doing very well. Action for Humanity, for example, used to be Syria Relief. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would just, talking about collaboration, that is really an important area to amplify collective impact. If you're working with others, and as David has said, there's different ways of doing that. It's not just about merging your organisations together. And collaboration, it's not just about, it's not just about the Muslim sector, not about Muslim charities working together, but it's about how you can go beyond that, how you can tackle wider societal issues. And I think that's really important for the Muslim community to think about how we can influence, through the work that we do, society at large, to help shape the narrative, to be, so it's a bit cheesy, but to be at the table, not on the menu, to be there, decision makers, and playing a part, shaping the agenda ourselves. And we can do that. We've got some fantastic projects, fantastic ideas, innovation that we can share widely. So collaboration, I think, is a really key part of that. And just one last thing I would say about innovation, because this does come up sometimes, is that innovation is about doing that responsibly and taking the best that's out there with innovation, and obviously from us as Muslim charities, making sure that we're doing that in line with our values. Innovation is something that can exponentially change or multiply the impact that we can do, but it also comes with responsibility.
Thank you both. Okay, we've got some questions here. Somebody with sorry about that. Yeah, if you come up here and I can repeat it back for everybody else. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for sharing some of that. What really resonates with me is support just hold its account. I think it's really great to hear that, because that's kind of what we need. Thank you. Mic problems. The question that I have is actually to do with one of the key governance risks that exists with charities, and it's to do with debanking. Just yesterday, I was with a charity and we were looking at our risk register. And being debanked is always a red risk. And there's absolutely nothing that the Muslim charitable sector can actually do about it. So my question really is, I remember last year a commitment was made that the Commission, our regulator, was going to work with the government and the banking sector to see what this is all about. Now, I think every charity sitting in this room actually has this concern. So would it be possible for you to give us maybe an update or just an insight in where we are and what that looks like going forward for us? Thank you.
Thanks. It's a really important point, and I know one that Fadi and Moazem were campaigning on for a period even before I arrived at the Commission. And what we have done through support from the likes of MCF is we've been able to provide the examples to the Treasury around where this debanking is happening in the sector. Now, you'd be surprised now, even though we are the charity regulator, banks don't have to provide us with the decisions or the rationale for why they're debanking, which is why we've engaged with the Treasury on the sector's behalf. Now, the good news is the government have listened. The Treasury have announced they are bringing in regulations in this space to prevent debanking, but that's going to take time. So the good news is the campaigning from the sector has worked, the Treasury are moving, and they are about to bring in regulations to prevent debanking in future.
So I've just got time for a final question, and I wanted to keep it as a broad one. So many smaller charities and Muslim-led charities sometimes feel slightly over-regulated or under-supported, and it'd be interesting to get both the view of the Commission and the role the Commission plays, but from Gus as well, from a legal advisor, and what advice you would give. Apologies. So the question is about smaller charities and Muslim-led charities that sometimes feel under-supported and thank you. And over-regulated. Sorry, guys. And just the view from the Commission and the view from a legal advisor. So I'll stop this first, if that's okay with you.
Sorry, I was careful. I get massive feedback on this. So I think that's a really good question. Small charities do not have the resources of large charities and have to be very careful. They're often volunteer-led. I used to run a charity myself, working with refugees in North London. I've been a trustee of several charities, including now Yakin Research UK, which is setting up in the UK, just trying to get a bank account. Wow. So it is an insight when you have to do it yourself and you see on the other side. Smaller charities, you're having to juggle so many different things, so many different responsibilities. You have to think of all the different risks, and if you're working overseas or funding things overseas, there's a whole extra set of things you need to be thinking about as well. What I'd say is that there is the support and guidance that the Commission provides. There are sector bodies out there that can provide fantastic support, like MuslimCharitiesForum, NCVO. There are role-based organisations out there. So for chairs of charities, there's the Association of Chairs. For CEOs, there's Akivo. There's some really good guidance. I mean, just flag a couple of things. I'm not doing your job for you, but it's something that we refer, because we have a lot of charities come to us who are small, who we just want to help. We don't want to charge them. We want to help them and direct them to places. So one of the tools which is really helpful is the decision-making guidance on the Commission website. Really important when you're having to try and make a difficult decision or a decision that's going to have a long-term impact to the organisation, or a new project that you want to do that's got a lot of risk attached to it. So there is a lot of really good guidance out there, a lot of free resources out there. There's a lot of policies out there that you can look at. Warning on that, don't just adopt someone else's policies whole scale. They're not going to be appropriate for you. And if you ever get a knock on the door from the Charity Commission and you just throw a load of policies at them, that's great, but they're then going to say, well, give us evidence of how you're actually implementing these policies. So it doesn't help, and in fact can be a worse situation to be in. So make sure if you do look at other people's policies, you tailor them to your needs and focus on those that are the most important to start off with. Before you sort of think about we need to have 50 different policies, focus on the key ones. Build relationships with larger charities who might be able to buddy or mentor you, and that's something I'd like to see a lot more of in the sector. Which there are bigger organisations out there that could be doing more of that, supporting others. But I think the key thing is for smaller organisations is really try and get that right from the start. Smaller organisations often grow into bigger organisations. Inshallah, that's where you go. And you want to make sure that you have those strong foundations, talking back to the headline there, in place, because you don't want to start off on the wrong foot and then exponentially multiply those problems because you haven't got those foundations in at the start.
I agree with everything Gus has just said there, and some really good pointers for people to go to in terms of organisations. I would say that the first thing is, as I said at the start, we are here to help, not just enforce. I have 25 staff who every day are sat at the end of a telephone waiting for charities to call and get help and support. We answer about 250,000 calls a year, and often what we will do is be able to signpost you to advice, or we'll be able to give you the expert advice for free from your regulator. That's what we're there for as well, because if we enable you, then actually we're helping you deliver your charitable purpose. So we have a huge number of resources there at your disposal. I would say as well, the first thing is contacting us is always a good start. I know some people sometimes are thinking, ooh, if we tell them what will happen, will they then come in and enforce? Our first starting point is always to ask the questions and see how we can help. So we will have 3,500 issues raised with us a year, complaints against a charity. Only 10% of that amount go on to become cases. In the vast majority, 82%, we'll provide advice because it isn't a matter of enforcement, it's a matter of a mistake has been made, and we can provide advice which can help you get back on course. So what I would say is don't be afraid to contact us. We're a resource there for you to use. And it's only if you've done something deliberate that actually, most of the time, we will get involved. For small charities, we're really proportionate. I'll be frank, if Save the Children makes a big error, it's got hundreds of millions. I'm not going to give them much room for manoeuvre because they've got the resources. If you've got £10,000 a year or £5,000 a year, you're doing your best. And as the regulator, we'll take that into account when we come in to regulate.
Perfect. Thank you, both of you. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring it to a close as it's... you have 30 seconds.
So I just wanted to say one little thing, which was really inspiring for me and colleagues today, is the Thrive Pal stall. If you haven't been to visit them, do visit them. We were talking to one person, a chap who's just arrived from Gaza 6 days ago. And imagine what he's been through, what his family has been continuing to go through right now. Yet, 6 days he's been here. He's already now working with this organisation to try and help Palestinians here in the UK to rebuild their lives. So that's an example of a new project, not yet a charity, innovative, making a huge impact, and gives you, I think, some inspiration, I hope, as to where the sector's coming from and where the people that work within it and what they're trying to achieve.
Thank you, Gus. That 30 seconds was definitely worth it. But a round of applause, please, for both our speakers. Thank you very much.